So how long have you been doing AR?
I've been doing AR for more than 10 years, but in cannabis, I've been working in AR for 5.5 years.
5.5 years. I'm trying to think. I believe that you might be the person that did AR the most that I personally know from HQ. I could be wrong, but I think that's really it,
Yeah, that's
right?
actually factually correct because I was the first AR person in headquarters.
Nice. And this is interesting because here's the reason why I wanted to talk to you specifically is because you remember what it was AR 5.5 years ago in California in cannabis, and you know what it is right now. So that gives us like a lot of stuff to talk about. But you've been collecting money from California cannabis retailers for so and so. What's the biggest difference between California cannabis market when you started versus what it looks like today?
I would say the biggest difference is that now we have some kind of payment history, payment behavior history across the state. When I started, it was just process of collecting information about payment behavior, and now it seems like that industry is shifting towards more knowledge about how people pay, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So ultimately, the data that we've accumulated throughout the years and the information sort of got us to this point where we're like, oh, we know exactly what this person's going to do, when they're going to do it, why they're going to do it, and so on, right?
Yeah.
So when you think about that, obviously the data itself is extremely impactful today. How does this make your job easier? How does this data make your job easier in terms of making decisions when communicating with retailers?
Well, it makes your job easier in a way that you can do better job prioritizing who you reach out to, how often you reach out to them, how do you approach them, what are their preferences. We basically know a lot more than we used to know. So you can save time by calling someone instead sending them 300 emails they're not going to open, because you know that that person or that particular shop operates the way they operate, and it is via phone calls or texts. So having the knowledge about their payment behavior and how they used to behave historically saves a lot of time. When you don't shoot blanks, you just you're straight to the spot. You know, when you call them, you're gonna pick up, you're gonna have the conversation about payment. It's gonna be easier for them, easier for you, and no blanks.
Do you feel like there was an evolution from the point where we're like, okay, my job is just to reach out to people and make, I don't know, 20 calls a day or 30 texts or 50 emails, whatever, to the point where we're right now, which is it's not really based on the number of calls, number of emails, but rather the success of collections per se, per associate or whatever?
Yeah, I would say that keeping your aging report in order does not mean like it does not correlate with higher number of reach outs, if you ask me. I think the focus is shifting towards making better decisions credit wise, and that's also where data comes in. So you know who to approve terms to or not. You're in constant communication with sales, and it's just shifting towards not increasing sales just to increase sales, but have meaningful sales, you put it in a perspective of if we're going to collect what we sold. So all the data, all the knowledge that we have us being, instead of just email spammers, to decision makers that's going to proactively make the success rate better by making better decisions before the order actually leaves the facility.
Would you say, again, when you compare back in the day AR with the AR today, obviously there's a lot of data that's not only useful for you, but as you said, like it goes to sales so that they know who to sell to, or they're going to be more successful. But again, the payments are going to be coming in. So when you compare your initial experience to today, were you communicating with sales in the same amount as you are today?
No, it was way less. In the beginning, the departments back then were more disconnected because it seemed like cannabis was a new industry and that everything was built ground up, even if there was a lot of experience from the other industries. We needed to wait for that learning curve to just do its thing. We needed to wait for the cannabis industry to absorb the good practices from other industries. And I think that is happening, and it's still a process. It's probably going to be a process forever. As much as we take the good things from other industries, there are also some like negative things that we can absorb from other industry, like bureaucracy that we don't need. But it all goes down to the whole system. Like if we're going to have difficult taxes to look at, and we're going to have difficult process to do those taxes, then it's going to cause bureaucracy and stuff like that. But let's focus on the positives. Like I think that a lot of positive things came from other industries, and we are going towards more strategic type of doing things in cannabis business instead of doing the like extra work with no strategic impact.
And this is a conversation that I had with a lot of people, and the concerns versus sort of the positive traits about this sort of cannabis transition to like corpy, more data oriented industry. When you compare it to what it was before, which is like literally go and that's it. You don't really plan, as you said. And it's something that a lot of people are talking about right now. And I feel like, as you said, like it is a process. It's probably going to take a long time, but ultimately, if you make sure that you pull out everything that's good, do that, but make sure you keep as one of the previous guests said, keep and maintain the spirit of cannabis, which is a sense that I really like. But going back to data very quickly, I want to touch on that as well, because obviously, as we now understand, there is very relevance towards data, and it's important to store data. How does that look like for you? And again, give me like a comparison to what it was before versus what it is right now. Looking at what a typical agent report used to be before and how you look at an agent report right now from, tech-wise and data-wise and so on and so on.
Well, back in the day, it was an Excel spreadsheet where we were looking at a lot of data that meant something to us, but a lot of data that was just spam. Like it was just like unnecessary for us at any point. So how the time passed, we learned what to focus on, what we needed to go over, what we needed to actually do our job. So it was structured in a way where we now are looking at meaningful data, and we are having a lot of knowledge to take that data and make it into information. And we know what we want to look at every week, what we want to look at from the strategic perspective. For example, when we are doing reporting and we are discussing the collection's success with C-level people, and what we want to look at granularly when we are doing actually our job. So when we do our job in headquarters, we are building the AR dashboard, which helps a lot making a lot of spam data is structured into a dashboard where you can access the correct data points that you need at the time that you need them, such as how much is due, how much is overdue, what's the latest update, what's their contact information, what's their basically latest event that happened, such as payment pickup. You can see how they pay. We can basically use, we can do collections like it's a video game, basically. Like you can navigate through the dashboard and just look up whatever you need faster, and it looks better. So that's something that is involving how we are evolving as an industry as well.
To put it more in perspective, if I understand right, back in the day, you had just like an Excel spreadsheet, and that was everything that you were going by. Yeah. And now it is this ultra fancy dashboard that has all the data classified, stored, and then you access it depending on your needs and who you're supposed to talk to, who you're go to collect money from, and so on and so on. So it's like in a sense, it is sound versus noise, where noise was 5.5 years ago, and then now it is actual sound made out of that noise that is something that you can leverage for real to be more successful at what you do. When you look at your dashboard, you said it was like a video game. Does that mean that, you know, everyone is able to use it, or is it a complex tool? How does that work?
Everyone that's tech savvy and know what they want to do, it makes their job more organized and standardized. So I think it's having the learning curve of being faster. If you're onboarding with headquarters doing AR, you're gonna get up to speed faster with standardized dashboard instead of just using a bunch of different spreadsheets that are different with every company in the industry.
Going back a little bit to the retailer side, one of the things that I'm assuming your dashboard is doing is it's kind of classifying retailers based on their information you have about them. What are the different types of retailers that you're working with? Like, if you can put them in boxes, like how would you classify them right now with the experience that you have?
Well, in the dashboard, you can classify them however you want. You can customize basically the attributes that you put to the retailers. But how would I classify them is it has to do a lot with their payment behavior. Like, do they pay on time? Do they need reminders? Do they like reminders? And obviously there are the usual suspects, as I call them. There are retailers that just pay slower for various reasons, which is why we have our jobs as well. But on the other hand, there are let's focus on the ones that don't pay on time. There is that type that will just ghost you until they have payment for you. So they will ignore your reach outs. They will dodge your calls. They will just ghost you basically until they recoup the funds and send you the payment, which is when they will reach out to you, basically bragging about them paying. There are also the ones that are really struggling. They're ghosting you, they're not paying. They're just trying to get an update. And my message to them is an update is an update, even if it's a negative one.
Sorry, let me stop here for a second. I have a follow-up question to what you said, which I think is very important to address, especially with brands that are, wanting to make sure that they're making the right decisions in advance and stuff like that. As you said, like projecting a little bit further into the future. Do you recognize now, with the level of experience that you have, do you recognize the patterns of like, oh, this seems like a pattern of someone that's struggling or going out of business slowly. Let's just make sure we put a full stop before crazy stuff happens. Or is this something that's still not fully developed? How would you talk about that?
I would say it's not fully developed because I feel like it's still based on what I, as an individual, feel looking at the data. It's not structured in a way that everyone can make the decision. But if you ask me about me, I would say that I know how to predict that something is off, and it's just based on the experience. And also I moved a lot between different brands, and I've been working with the same retailers from the perspective of different brands, and their payment behavior is the same towards different brands. So having that knowledge, I can see that brands have different strategies when it comes to providing terms, leveraging their exposure to a retailer, how much they sell versus how much they collect from a particular retailer. So you can see when someone is risking too much. And it doesn't seem like every brand is, let's say, managing that risk well enough. And that's where the room for growth is in the industry, for sure.
So I feel like because you've worked so much with these guys, by heart, almost sort of fundamentally or sentimentally, of when you see these patterns emerge and you're like, oh, this is the moment. But you cannot put a number to it. So it's not really technical that much. And it's just more based on the feeling that you have in the moment. So what do you think, if we're to do an experiment right now, and if I asked you, put 3 things that would, that based on your experience, you can quantify them, that will make you a system that can recognize these patterns, what those 3 specifics would be?
I would have to think about it for a bit, but the first one that comes to mind would be their payment cadence on average. How overdue their AR gets until they pay on average through time, like historically. Like in the past, let's say 6 months, how their aging buckets move, if I should put it that way. That would be probably the most fundamental one and the most obvious one. If we would need to quantify the others, it would probably be how responsive they are over time. So we would need to track and kind of grade their responsiveness to the AR outreach if we are just looking at and gathering information from the AR team and not syncing up with other departments in the company. I use a lot of insight that I can get from sales from the sales reps that actually visit the shops. They can tell you a lot, but that is not easily quantifiable. It's more
If you
like
can, my
subjective.
God, if you
Yeah,
can quantify,
you need to listen to the rumor mill.
that would be so amazing. I think that would definitely help a lot. But at the end of the day, that's the reason why this is one of those jobs that you cannot easily replace by AI. It's like you have to take these sort of sentimental / fundamental information into consideration, and not just technical value, right? You have to be like, oh, but I got information from the sales guys that they're closing, and even though it seems like they're paying everything on time, God knows what's going to happen. So let's just make sure we put a stop to it before it goes out of hand. And that makes sense. So and then same goes, because you did mention that you also worked between multiple brands and you worked in with distribution as well. So I would like to know, like, if you look at those brands, what's something that cannabis brands consistently misunderstand about getting paid by retailers? Because you said that there's different strategies or approaches when, you know, giving terms to retailers. How do you go about that?
Well, it all comes down to that forever battle between sales and AR, and that battle is real. Every company has situation where one or the other department has the upper hand, and it all comes down to personnel. Like, it's like the CFO of the company and the COO need to be in balance. Like, they need to work together and kind of set the KPIs in a way that makes sense, that we need to have more sales, but the collections need to follow. And the indicator strategically that I like looking at the most is collections versus sales ratio. Like, it needs to be around 1. And if it's not around 1, some decisions about leveraging risk, as we talked about, are not made correctly. So that's the main thing that's different across the board. And I understand that a lot of companies have their obligations towards investors. They need to increase their revenue. It all makes sense to me. But if we're looking at the theoretical perfect situation, you need to have the sales that are collectible, because in the long run, that's the only thing that's important. Like, if you pump your sales up at the end of each month, for every month, like, you need to have higher and higher sales, and then after 3 months, the invoices that were on net 30 are 60 days overdue, then you're in trouble. And then you need to address those sales as kind of bad. Like, if we did not collect on them, then do they actually make sense? So yeah, that's basically the main thing that's different across different brands that I worked for. There are some that's
Yeah, sorry for cutting you off. But you know, me knowing that you swim very well in this sort of relationship between sales and AR, what is your secret to making both parties satisfied? How do you swim through these waters? Because you're very good at it, and I'm interested in what do you do so that you're not having issues, and that the sales guys are actually satisfied with what you're doing, but you're also satisfying the need of getting those payments in.
I think it all comes down to trust. For the retailers, that sales reps does not want me to touch their relationship, I need to have complete trust that they're going to provide me with updates, and that the retailer is not going to go out of control when it comes to collections. On the other hand, sales reps need to have complete trust in me that I'm not pushing credit limits, credit holds on particular retailers, damage their sales at the end of the month. Kind of over time, when you build trust, then you work together better towards the same goal. And my goal is to collect everything that they sell. Their goal is to sell as much as they can. There are also practices about bonuses for sales reps where some companies just hold the bonuses until we collect money for products sold. So that makes us work for the same interest, because as soon as we collect, they're going to have their bonuses. And apart from that trust that we are trying to mutually build, I think it all comes down to that as well. But yeah, as you said, you need to swim in those waters, and just over time, it feels naturally to me that it is going towards a good outcome. Yeah.
It's like making sure that you're a good mediator by doing or by convincing sales that without them selling, you don't have anything to collect. So ultimately, your goal as well is to make them sell as much as possible so that you can collect, which is probably something that sales guys should take into consideration as well. All right, last one, and this is something that I really like talking to people about. It's just because it's a bunch of information that, I mean, it's just forecasting. But tell me, what do you see, or how do you see California market in 3 years from now?
No one has issues with having a bank account. They're making ACH payments, and it's clearing automatically via blockchain, and I'm out of my job. But realistically, I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah.
Okay.
Realistically, I think 3 years from now, we're going to make progress towards quantifying the indicators that we talked about. It's going to move more towards leveraging the risk and making meaningful sales. But I wish that cannabis industry as a whole is going to have more access to capital. It's going to have more access to banking, like kind of factoring capital for their cash flow to be faster. I would like to see that moving in a positive direction 3 years from now.
Thank you very much. Where can people find you?
They can find me in the spreadsheets probably, and in the AR dashboard.
Thank you very much. Have a great rest of the day, evening.
Thank you. Really enjoyed it.